You are sitting in the dark, no phone, no laptop, no television, no radio, no book, no electricity of any kind. The sun went down 2 hours ago, and there is absolutely nothing to look at except fire. This is every night of your life for the first 200,000 years of human existence. And somehow, out of that darkness came language, music, art, religion, mathematics, philosophy, every idea that built the world you are sitting in right now. The question is not how ancient humans survived without screens. The question is what happened to the human brain when there was nothing to look at but each other. Stay with me. Here is what most people picture when they imagine ancient human evenings. Sitting, staring, bored, waiting for morning. Wrong. Anthropologists who have spent time with modern hunter-gatherer communities, groups that still live without electricity, have documented something that completely overturns this picture. The hours after dark are the most socially active hours of the day. Not the most productive, not the most physically demanding, the most connected. Because when the work of survival is done and the fire is the only light and there is nowhere to go and nothing to do, humans talk, not the way we talk now. Not quick exchanges, not notifications, not the fragmented half-attention of people looking at their phones while technically being in the same room. They talk for hours, sustained, focused, fully present, and what they talk about is almost never logistics. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer conversation content at night show that the overwhelming majority of night talk is stories, jokes, gossip about other people, speculation about why things happen the way they do. In other words, narrative, fiction, theory of mind, the rehearsal of social scenarios, the imagination of possibilities that don't yet exist. This is not downtime. This is cognitive training of the highest order. Every story told around a fire requires the listener to hold a complex sequence of events in working memory, to model the mental states of characters who are not present, to simulate emotions and outcomes and consequences, to update their understanding of how the social world works. Every joke requires the rapid detection of an unexpected pattern, a violation of expectation that the brain finds satisfying rather than threatening, the ability to hold two conflicting ideas simultaneously and experience the tension between them as pleasure rather than confusion. Every piece of gossip requires a detailed model of someone else's psychology, their motivations, their likely behavior, their relationships with other people, their reputation, and how it might change. These are not small cognitive tasks. They are among the most demanding things a human brain can do, and ancient humans were doing them for hours every single night without a single screen. Now here is where it gets strange, because we know from sleep research that what happens in the hours before sleep shapes the content of dreams, and we know from neuroscience that dreams are not random noise. They are the brain processing social and emotional experience, running simulations, rehearsing responses, consolidating what matters, and discarding what doesn't. Ancient humans who spent their evenings deeply engaged in social narrative, stories, speculation, emotional conversation, were feeding their sleeping brains extraordinarily rich material to process. Modern humans who spend their evenings consuming content designed to capture attention and produce passive engagement are feeding their sleeping brains something fundamentally different. We don't fully understand what this means, but researchers who study sleep, cognition, and social development are increasingly interested in the question: what happens to a brain that never has to generate its own narrative, that never has to produce imagination from nothing, that is always consuming rather than creating? Ancient humans had no choice but to generate. There was nothing to consume. The story had to come from inside someone, or there was no story. And there was always a story. Because here is the other thing we know about those firelit hours. They were not just cognitively demanding, they were emotionally regulating. The nervous system of a human being who has spent all day navigating physical danger, social complexity, resource uncertainty, and the constant background hum of a world that could kill them. That nervous system needs to come down. Shared laughter does this. Shared narrative does this. Physical proximity to familiar people does this. The warmth of fire does this. The predictable rhythm of voices in the dark does this. Ancient humans were not just entertaining themselves around the fire. They were medicating their nervous systems with the exact inputs those systems evolved to receive. Oxytocin from physical proximity and social warmth. Cortisol regulation from the resolution of narrative tension. The story has an ending. The problem gets solved. The unknown becomes known. Dopamine from the social reward of being listened to, of making someone laugh, of saying something that the group responds to. This is not primitive. This is sophisticated beyond anything we have managed to replicate artificially. And then there is the one thing that ancient humans did without screens that modern neuroscience cannot stop talking about. They were bored. Not the anxious scrolling boredom of a person with a dead phone. The genuine, sustained, open-ended boredom of a mind with nothing external to attach to. Genuine boredom, the kind where there is truly nothing to do and the mind turns inward, activates the default mode network, the part of the brain responsible for self-reflection, imagination, future planning, and the spontaneous generation of ideas. This network is suppressed when you are consuming external stimulation. It activates when you are not. Ancient humans spent enormous portions of their lives in conditions that activated the default mode network by necessity, not by choice, by the simple fact that there was nothing else to look at. Modern humans almost never experience this. There is always something to look at, something to scroll, something to consume. What this means for creativity, for self-knowledge, for the kind of slow, deep thinking that produces insight rather than reaction, we are only beginning to understand. What we know is that the human brain was not designed for constant stimulation. It was designed for fire, for voices in the dark, for the long silence between stories when the only sound is the wood burning and the only light is the same light that has been keeping humans company since before language existed. If you want to know, you know what to do.